Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit more about how to multiply, divide, and take the power of scientific notations. So the first type of problem we're going to talk about is the multiplication. So multiplication and division are very similar for these. What you want to do is you want to group each problem into two different groups. You want your coefficients on one side and then your 10 to the whatever power on the other side. So the coefficients are going to be these numbers at the start of the scientific notation, so like the 5.8 and the 2. So in this problem, since we have the parentheses right next to each other, we know that we're multiplying. So I'm going to go ahead and write off to the side in parentheses, I'm going to write 5.8 times 2. And now our second group is going to be our 10 to the whatever powers. So in this problem, we have 10 to the negative 6th times 10 to the 4th. Okay, so this is how we want to group them for our first step. So we always want to separate those coefficients and then the exponents. We want to keep them separate. So our second step is going to be to go ahead and multiply both of these out. So I'm going to multiply 5.8 times 2, which is going to give me 11.6. And then that is going to be times 10 to the negative 6th times 10 to the 4th. And if we remember, when we're multiplying these, what that really means is we add our exponents. So negative 6 plus 4 is going to be negative 2, so times 10 to the negative 2. Now, this looks like it could be our answer, but there's one more step that we need to do on this. So when we're writing our answers in scientific notation, we need to make sure we only have, in the coefficient, we want one non-zero number left of the decimal. So here we have 11.6, but we only want one actual digit left of that decimal. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to move this decimal point one place to the left, so it's 1.16. But in order for me to do that, I need to change the exponent. So since I'm making 11.6 smaller and I'm turning it into since I'm turning it into 1.16 and making it smaller, what I need to do is I need to add 1 to my exponent. So if we're making the coefficient smaller, we need to make the exponent bigger. So I'm going to add 1 to that. So instead of times 10 to the negative 2, I'm going to have times 10 to the negative 1. And if we were moving the decimal place, let's just say 4 times, then we would need to add 4 to the exponent as well, so it correlates. And that would be our third step. So just quick review, we group our coefficients and our exponents, then we multiply them out, and then we have to put it back into scientific notation by moving the decimal point in the coefficient and then adding or subtracting on the exponent. For our division, we're going to follow the same exact steps, except for we're going to be dividing this time. So I'm going to group my my coefficients together and my exponents together. So I have 5.3 divided by 7.65, and that's going to be times, then my exponents are 10 to the 3rd divided by 10 to the 5th. So that's my first step. I just group them together. Then my second step, I'm going to go ahead and divide both of these out, which I like to use a calculator because dividing messy decimals isn't really my jam. Okay, so we get a big messy decimal number. We get 0.6928 blah 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 blah. Goes on for a long time. Let me see if that can be converted. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to round that to the thousandths because it seems ridiculous to write all that. So I'm going to say 0.693 when I divide that. Then when I divide my exponents over here, when we're dividing our exponents, what we're really doing is we are just subtracting the individual powers. So 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So I'm going to have 10 to the negative 2. And of course, both of these are being multiplied together. So for my third and final step, I am just writing this into scientific notation. Now, right now, I have 0.693 times 10 to the negative 2. I know I need to move this decimal place to the right one, making that number bigger, which means I need to make this exponent smaller. And I need to, that was a terrible arrow. I need to make it, that was this literally the same thing. I need to make it smaller by 1. So I'm going to subtract 1 from that. So now I'm going to have 6.93 times 10, and then 1 less than negative 2 is negative 3, so times 10 to the negative third. What just happened? Okay. And that would be my final answer for that. So I'm following the same steps when I'm multiplying and dividing. First thing I do, group coefficients. So step 1, group coefficients. Spelling, maybe that's right, maybe it's not. And then my second step is going to be multiply or divide, whichever one is necessary for the problem. Then my third step, I'm going to move decimal and change exponent so that it's in scientific notation. So in scientific, that's really bad spelling, scientific notation. Okay, so that's how you do the multiplication and division. There's one other type of problem that we're going to go over real quick, and that is these power of power problems. So when you have parentheses and then you just have an exponent outside of it, what you actually need to do for that problem is you need to put that exponent into both of these problems. So instead of 7.87 times 10 to the negative 1, what you now have is 7.87 to the negative 6th power times 10 to the negative 1 to the negative 6th. So what I like to do for these is I like to punch that coefficient piece in my calculator, because doing 7.87 to the negative 6th power longhand just seems a bit ridiculous to me. And once again, I'm going to round this because it's just bizarre to not do that. So I'm left with 0.0, that's the wrong color, 0.0000042 times, then when we do a power of a power, what we actually do is we multiply these powers together. When we have a power of a power, we always use multiplication. So negative 1 times negative 6 is 10 to the 6th, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So that's our second step. Then just like before, our third step is going to be changing this into scientific notation, which for me to do that, I need to move this decimal to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So 6 jumps, and I'm making this number bigger, so I'm going to make this number smaller, so minus 6. So what I'm left with in the end is 4.2 times 10 to the 0. And that would be my final answer. I hope this helps. If any of you have further questions, please shoot me an email and we can set up a time to Zoom so we can